So this is from, I believe, 3 days ago. James O'Keefe and his undercover journalists have gotten yet another strange confession of corruption and election interference, the usual in fact. So this guy in the video is supposed to be an MSNBC producer, and he has something he wants to confess to, well, his date apparently, but now the entire world sees it anyway.
So do you feel like MSNBC is doing enough to help the Harris campaign?
I mean, they're doing all they can.
Meet Basil Hemp, a writer and producer for MSNBC's weekend show, Hyman. Basil also reveals that, quote, what her message of the day is their MSNBC's message of the day.
What have they done to help the Harris campaign?
Amplify her message. What her message of the day is their message of the day.
And
So already we see that he's basically admitting they are a Democratic mouthpiece. They are essentially part of the Kamala Harris campaign. Interesting for a news network. Not surprising, mind you. That would be everyone who's critical of the mainstream media and the Democratic Party could have seen this coming, would have seen this coming. But it's nice to have a confession to bludgeon them with as a, political maneuver. I don't think this will actually make a big difference at all. I mean, I think if we go back like a decade or two, it might have been actually a big deal and considered, illegal, like an illegal contribution to an election. If you say, well, we literally just give one side all of our support, then isn't that the same as giving money? And you haven't declared it, and you've probably gone over the limits of what you are allowed to give. I think. I'm not an expert in any of this, but I know that we live in an era where if you are on the left, you will never be held to account for anything. Not really left, like if you are part of the establishment, let's be honest. Lots of people who were left were kind of critical of the establishment in one area and basically got kicked out, and now they're either called far-right or, like J.K. Rowling considered evil despite agreeing with 99% of the stuff that the liberals say anyway. I don't even want to concede the term liberal though. Regardless, let's get back to the video.
And revealed that MSNBC is the Democratic Party's mouthpiece and is doing anything to get Kamala elected. And it says this news network is indistinguishable from the Democratic Party.
He's just like doing whatever it takes to get Kamala elected.
Yes. It hammers home the point that I'm making, that this news network is indistinguishable from the party.
Are they just the Democratic Party's mouthpiece?
Exactly.
MSNBC is the Democratic Party's mouthpiece.
Yeah.
She doesn't sound like she's on a date. She sounds like she's doing an interview, right? She's specifically repeating the key points, sort of trying to get sound bites. Isn't it too obvious? I guess they say love makes you a fool, or perhaps lust in this case. Well, either way, he fell for it, so I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Basil calls MSNBC viewers brainwashed and states that MSNBC made their viewers dumber over the years.
Viewers get mad at the guests or the host if the hosts were to criticize Democrats. They made their viewers dumber over the years. I think brainwashing and dumbing down.
It's bad. I get it.
Helps Trump. When she's delivering these messages now, I think she keeps getting better.
Kamala Harris is telling you the hate campaign against Kamala Harris has begun.
Well, we don't need too many examples of this nonsense, although there's an interesting line there. I mean, the idea that MSNBC has been dumbing down their audience, well, if you've ever talked to somebody who does take the mainstream media as gospel, you might not be surprised either, although it's not very good for their egos, let's say. They will probably just brush it aside. They'll tell you that politics is a dirty game and everybody is like this, everybody's corrupted, and what one producer said shouldn't be taken too seriously. They'll give you excuses, but if you've talked to them, then you'll know that they have stopped critically thinking about the news that they consume, and that it doesn't matter what kind of proof you can bring them, what kind of facts or logic, even government statistics, they'll just brush it aside. They won't be entertaining your position seriously if you speak out against the Democratic Party. So I definitely agree with him in that they have managed to habituate their viewers into shutting down their brains and letting somebody else think for them. That's my take on it. That said, the fact that he said it helps Trump, that's the interesting part. I wonder in what way does it help Trump? I mean, do you think what he's basically saying is that they've sort of sifted out all of the people who won't accept something like this, like somebody else essentially doing the thinking for them, just telling them what to believe, which reduced the number of viewers and essentially created a broader coalition against them? I mean, I can see it. It's definitely what happened in my opinion. You can see the viewership dropping across time for all the mainstream news quite sharply. It could also be that by dumbing down your audience, you make sure that whenever somebody tries to talk politics with them, they are exceedingly territorial and defensive, tribal, sorry, and defensive, which is off-putting if you're not part of that cult. So in that way, you're also essentially creating more dissidents by habituating people into this position. I still think that I'd like to see the specific explanation he'd have for why it helps Trump to dumb down left-wing audiences. Regardless, this is just them giving a couple more points of them going, yeah, the Democrats are always right, etc.
Purposefully pronounce her name wrong.
The product of a mixed marriage. She's an inspiration.
No, Nicole, don't call her. Don't vote for her. Isn't it great to just have a good conversation right now?
Last week, we saw Vice President Kamala Harris's first mainstream media solo interview of her presidential run with MSNBC's Stephanie Ruhle. Many people were stating how much of a softball interview it was. Here's a clip from that.
I just want to ask you yes or no.
So this is not the first softball interview she had. I believe the previous one, she actually had Tim Walz, her running mate, with her. And they cut it down to essentially like the 4 best minutes of it, despite the fact that it was like an hour. And she still came off pretty terribly. So focusing on MSNBC as like the ones who specifically give her softball interviews, all the mainstream media gives her softball interviews, and it always comes out badly. I was actually very surprised with how she talked during the debate with Trump. It didn't sound like Kamala Harris at all. If you listen to any interviews, the few she gave, or to her speaking in press conferences and such, the way she usually talks, the way she forms her sentences, was nothing like the way she talked during the debate with Trump. And I therefore thought that it's quite likely that she either memorized lines or perhaps had them fed to her somehow. Well, regardless, I won't give you too much of the video. I'll let you just go to James O'Keefe because he does great work, and I think he deserves very much all of our support. Not that he actually is in danger of leading viewers off to me, considering I'm still so new and unknown, but it's the spirit of the thing, if you understand me. Anyway, thanks for watching. I think this is definitely a story worth knowing, despite the fact that it doesn't really give us any news per se. It's still good to have both as an argument against the other side, as well as to sort of allow you to authenticate what you think, you know? People get caught in conceptions, and you don't know how far you've veered off reality with your just going along with your echo chamber until you've seen some hard proof once in a while. So this is that hard proof in my opinion. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Like, comment, subscribe, and take care.